In the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia is making a bold bet on its future, pursuing rapid economic growth while grappling with a recent international debt default. The government has entered complex negotiations with lenders, even as it signs a landmark deal with Russia to build its first nuclear power plant. This move is both a leap toward energy independence and a risky financial gamble. Ethiopia's leaders argue that investing in nuclear energy is essential for long-term stability, despite the immediate financial strain. The world is watching. Can Ethiopia transform its fortunes, or will this ambition deepen its financial woes? The stakes could not be higher for Ethiopia, or for other developing nations eyeing similar paths. Ethiopia's debt crisis erupted into the global spotlight when the country defaulted on a $1 billion Eurobond in December 2023. This event sent shockwaves through financial markets and signaled that Ethiopia was facing deep and complex financial trouble. The default not only rattled investors but also raised urgent questions about the country's ability to meet its obligations and maintain economic stability. For millions of Ethiopians, the news brought uncertainty about the future as the government scrambled to find solutions. In response, Ethiopia entered debt restructuring talks under the G20's Common Framework, a process designed to help countries in distress. Negotiations began with official creditors, including major lenders like China, as well as private bondholders. Each group brought its own demands and expectations, making the process slow and complicated. The stakes were high as the outcome would shape Ethiopia's financial future and its relationships with international partners. After months of intense discussions, Ethiopia reached a draft deal in March 2025 to restructure $8.4 billion in official debt. This agreement offered some short-term relief, giving the government breathing room to manage its finances. However, it stopped short of providing any actual debt forgiveness, meaning Ethiopia would still need to pay back the full amount over time. Meanwhile, talks with private investors have stalled. These creditors are pushing for better terms and are reluctant to accept losses, creating a major roadblock. Their resistance has left Ethiopia in a state of limbo, unable to move forward until a compromise is reached. Without a comprehensive deal with bondholders, Ethiopia remains locked out of global financial markets. The country cannot fully exit default, and its access to much-needed international funding is severely restricted. This financial isolation threatens to slow economic growth and delay critical investments. The outcome of these high-stakes negotiations will determine whether Ethiopia can stabilize its economy and pursue its ambitious development plans. Infrastructure projects, job creation, and poverty reduction all hang in the balance, making the stakes even higher for ordinary citizens. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching closely as Ethiopia faces one of the most critical moments in its modern economic history. Every decision made now will have lasting consequences for years to come. The path forward is anything but certain, and Ethiopia stands at a crossroads, with its future hanging in the balance. At the heart of Ethiopia's debt standoff lies a fundamental dilemma that many countries face when financial pressures mount. Is Ethiopia simply experiencing a temporary cash crunch, a shortfall in available funds to pay its bills on time? Or is the country facing a much deeper insolvency crisis, where its total debts far outweigh its ability to ever repay them? Bondholders point to Ethiopia's recent export boom, especially in coffee and gold, as evidence that the nation is fundamentally sound. They argue that these strong export revenues show Ethiopia is not bankrupt, but rather just temporarily short on cash due to timing mismatches between income and debt payments. These investors accuse the IMF and other official lenders of exaggerating the scale of the problem, insisting that calls for sweeping debt relief are premature and could even undermine confidence in Ethiopia's economy. The IMF, however, sees things differently. It warns that Ethiopia's overall debt burden, especially the mounting obligations of state-owned enterprises, is unsustainable in the long run and could threaten the country's economic stability. If the problem is just liquidity, a simple extension of payment deadlines or a short-term loan could be enough to bridge the gap and restore confidence. But if Ethiopia is truly insolvent, bondholders may have to accept losses, and the country could be forced to restructure its debts more fundamentally. This fundamental disagreement has stalled progress, leaving Ethiopia caught in a tug-of-war between cautious official lenders and skeptical private investors, each wary of making the first move. The outcome of this standoff will have lasting consequences, shaping not only Ethiopia's financial future but also its reputation in global markets. The stakes are high, the world is watching closely, and the next steps will determine whether Ethiopia can chart a path to stability or faces deeper financial turmoil. As Ethiopia negotiates with creditors, the IMF and World Bank have stepped in with crucial support. The IMF approved a $3.4 billion loan program, disbursed in stages as Ethiopia meets reform targets. The World Bank committed $1 billion for long-term development, focusing on sectors like agriculture and infrastructure. This support is a lifeline, helping Ethiopia stabilize its currency and maintain essential services. However, controversy erupted when Ethiopia took on a new $1 billion commercial loan for a hydropower project, raising concerns among bondholders. Balancing new borrowing with debt relief demands is a delicate act for Ethiopia and its international partners. The outcome will influence Ethiopia's recovery and its credibility with global investors. Amid its financial struggles, Ethiopia has signed a groundbreaking deal with Russia's Rosatom to build its first nuclear power plant. The agreement covers everything from site selection to training Ethiopian engineers, aiming to diversify away from climate-vulnerable hydropower. Nuclear energy promises stable, round-the-clock electricity and could position Ethiopia as a regional energy exporter. The government hopes this project will generate new revenue and boost its geopolitical influence. Partnering with Russia signals Ethiopia's willingness to work with any global power to achieve its goals. The nuclear deal is ambitious, but it comes with enormous risks. Ethiopia is betting big on a future powered by nuclear energy. Building a nuclear plant is a massive financial and technical challenge, especially for a country already in default. The project could saddle Ethiopia with new debt and long-term dependence on Russian technology and expertise. Cost overruns, delays, and regulatory hurdles are common in nuclear projects, and Ethiopia's limited experience heightens these risks. Political instability or diplomatic tensions could disrupt the project or its operation. Developing a competent, independent nuclear regulator from scratch is a daunting task. Any misstep could have catastrophic consequences for Ethiopia and the region. The nuclear gamble is as risky as it is ambitious. Ethiopia stands at a crossroads, facing two possible futures. The choices made today will echo for generations, shaping the destiny of millions. This is a pivotal moment where hope and hardship hang in the balance. In the best case, Ethiopia secures crucial debt deals, attracts new waves of investment, and successfully completes its ambitious nuclear plant. This would mark the nation as a regional powerhouse, drawing admiration and partnership from across Africa and beyond. International investors would see Ethiopia as a beacon of stability and opportunity, eager to participate in its growth. With stable energy and bold economic reforms, Ethiopia could transform into a major exporter, fueling industries and lighting up homes across the Horn of Africa. Its cities would bustle with new businesses, and its people would benefit from jobs, education, and improved living standards. The country could become an anchor of progress for the entire region. But in the worst case, failed negotiations and mounting debt could trigger economic collapse and political instability. Shops could shutter, projects might stall, and unrest could spread as hope fades. The consequences would ripple through every layer of society, deepening divisions and uncertainty. The nuclear project, once a symbol of ambition, could become a costly white elephant, draining resources, stalling progress, and deepening dependence on foreign powers like Russia. Instead of prosperity, it could bring frustration and regret. Ethiopia's dream of energy independence and prosperity could unravel, leaving families in the dark and the nation more vulnerable than before. Everyday life would become a struggle, and the promise of a brighter future could slip away. The world is watching closely, waiting to see if Ethiopia can thread the needle, balancing ambition with caution and hope with realism. Its choices will be studied by leaders and citizens far beyond its borders. Will bold ambition lead to a new era of growth and opportunity? Or will the risks prove too great, setting back progress for years to come? The answer is uncertain, but the stakes are clear. The outcome will shape not just Ethiopia's future, but the hopes and dreams of developing nations everywhere. Nations looking for a path forward in a challenging world. The stakes have never been higher. Ethiopia's next steps will define an era, and the world is watching.